Hey artists! I wanted to say hello to you all from home and send you and your families my well wishes and let you know that I'm thinking about you and that I miss seeing all of you and that I hope you're doing well. I also hope you've been able to get outside and enjoy this beautiful spring weather we've been having. I love this time of year because every single day there's more things blooming and growing, and every day it gets more beautiful. So that's something to be excited about. I also hope you've had a chance to check out my art website because there's a couple things there that can help you to be creative from home. There are more videos like this one, and I'm going to keep making them and add them at least every Monday, but maybe more often too. And there is some links to art games and other art websites. And there's also a weekly creativity challenge with a couple of different ideas of ways you can be creative at home. So, what I'd like you to do is take a look at them and try to choose at least one creativity challenge to do a week, maybe even more if you're inspired. But that way you can keep your creative muscles strong. And of course, there's lots of ways to be creative that might not be on my list. Like you can design games and you can cook and bake with your family. There's so many ways that you can keep your creative muscles strong. But I just want to give you some ideas to help you if you're looking for ideas. So, check out this week's creativity challenge. And if someone in your family is able to help you take a picture and send it to me in my email, that would be awesome because what I'd like to do is take all those pictures and put them together in like an art show video for the next week. So you can see how we're being creative together even when we're apart. And some of you have done that already. So if you have, check out the other new video this week to see some of the artwork that your friends and classmates have been doing so far. And I have loved getting those pictures. So if you do some of our creativity challenges this week, I would love to see what you make. Makes my day. So today, what I thought I'd do is give you a little tour of my art studio area here at my house. I'd really like to be able to make you guys some videos of art tutorials where you can see me drawing and making things, but I don't quite have the right camera that points down so you can see me really good. I'm hoping to get one of those soon. So until then, I'll show you around a little bit my art studio here. And maybe one challenge, it's not on our creativity challenge list, but maybe one challenge for you this week is to set up your own art studio. An art studio doesn't have to be a fancy room or even its own desk. It could just be maybe a place at your kitchen table or a spot in your bedroom where you have your art supplies ready and you know you can sit down and make something. So it's good to have things like, here, I'll give you a little tour. So I like to have my art studio by my desk so I can look out the window. I've got bird feeder and I've got some shelves you can't see very good over here where I keep my paint and things like that. But I like to keep it nice and neat and organized so I can find what I need. And some good things to have would be, crayons or markers that you can color with, pencils, scissors, and glue. And I'll show you some other things that I like to use too. But you don't have to have any fancy art supplies. Some of you know the answer to this riddle already, but I like to ask my students, what is the one art supply you have to have in order to be creative? You might want to pause the video and think about it if you don't know the answer. But the only art supply that you have to be an artist is your imagination, right? Because some art doesn't even use a pencil. Some art doesn't have any color. Some art is a photograph. Some art is a sculpture or a clay project. The only thing they all have in common is you have to have your imagination. So if you don't have all the same art supplies as me, it's okay. And you might even have some of the best art supplies in your house right now, and you don't even know it. So I'll show you what those are in a minute. So in my art studio, one thing that I like to do is to paint. So I'll show you some of my paints here. I really like using watercolor paints. And I think almost all of you have used watercolor paints with me in the art room before. They're the kind where mine look a little different than ours at school, but they're the kind where I could rub my brush on it all day and it's never going to get any paint on it until I get my brush wet, right? And I like watercolors because they're beautiful and you can blend them and mix them. So I use them a lot. And I also use some other supplies I keep them in this art box here, like my paintbrushes, and these are watercolor pencils. A lot of you guys have used these with me before, where they look like a pencil, but actually there's paint inside. And you may have heard before of an artist's palette where you keep your paint. So there's lots of different kinds of palettes. Mine might look a little different than what you've seen before, but this is my watercolor paint palette that I've been using for a painting. So when you open it up, this paint inside is actually dry because it's just like our regular watercolors. You have to get them wet with water, and they come from these little tiny tubes of watercolor paint. And it might not look like it would last very long, but this paint actually goes a really long way. So I'll show you what I've been using these colors for. A lot of you know that I really love maps and learning about the world, kind of like that map painting that I did in the hallway at Twin Oak, if you're a Twin Oak artist. And I've got some maps in the background here. So I like to make paintings of maps too, using my watercolor paints. So here's one of my map paintings that's finished. This is a map of the country Switzerland, where I used to live. And Switzerland has little parts of the country, kind of like how we have different states. They call them cantons. So this is a map of the country of Switzerland with the flag of each canton inside the state. So that's one that I finished. But this is one I've been working on lately. It's much bigger. I got a lot more work to do. But this is a map of Africa. And I drew the map and I outlined it with my pen. And then I've been using my watercolor paints to paint the flag of each country inside the map. So I got a lot more work to do on that. But that's one thing that I've been doing the last couple weeks. And you might remember that I said you probably have one of the coolest and the best art supplies in your house without even knowing it, which is recycled materials. And all recycled materials means it could be anything that doesn't really look like an art supply, but because you're creative and you have a good imagination, you kind of rescue it and you turn it into something that you can make with. So I have down here in my desk, I have a secret drawer where I save things that if you opened it up, you'd probably just think it's a bunch of trash. But I save things that I think are really beautiful or interesting or cool that I could use to make art later, like pieces of maps. Love my maps. Sometimes I find interesting pictures that I like, and so I cut them out to save them, maybe to make a birthday card or something like that. This is some wrapping paper that was left over from Christmas that I thought was really cute, and so I saved it because I thought maybe I could make something with it. And this is actually part of a grocery bag that I loved the design on. So I know it probably looks like trash, but I saved it in my drawer of magical things so that later, if I have a inspiration, I can turn it into something. So as long as you keep it organized, this is a really great way to collect art supplies. And I bet you have things in your house that maybe you didn't think they were supplies, but you could turn them into an art project. Like, you have to ask permission. But magazines, if someone in your family has old magazines, can be great because you can cut out pictures and words and put them together in new ways. But I'll tell on myself a little bit. I used to get in trouble from my mom all the time for cutting up magazines without asking. So if you're going to cut up something, make sure you check whether it's okay first. But that's a really great way to find cool pictures and things to make collages where you cut and glue. And you can also find really great supplies for making art projects in your kitchen. If you have a recycle bin or before you put things in the trash, I know it might not look like an art supply, but think about all the things you could do with the interesting shape of an egg carton. You could rescue things like this used to be the inside of wrapping paper, and I feel like this could be so many things. It could be a lightsaber, it could be anything. And you can use things from your kitchen, like you could turn old containers that used to have food in them, there it is, into something. You could use things like the tab off of a can of pop. You could turn these into something. Be careful if it has a sharp edge, but as long as you have someone helping you and you ask permission, you could use these things to make so many different creative things. But I think the absolute best art supply that I bet you do have in your house is, see if you can guess, a cardboard box. Da, da, da. Now, I know it might not seem like the best art supply, but think about all the things that you could make with a cardboard box. You could turn it into a sculpture. You could make a little world inside. If it's a really big box, you could even make it something that you could go inside, like a big fort or something like that. So look around your house, have someone in your family help you, and think about what kind of recycled materials you could use. One of the creativity challenges this week is to use recycled materials to make something new. And I'll put some pictures with ideas in the creativity challenge, but you don't have to use my ideas. You could think of something of your own. I'll show you something that I've been working on that's kind of using recycled materials. I had all of these really old stamps that I got at an antique store off of letters from different countries around the world. And I didn't know what to do with them, but I realized that there were lots of different colors. So I organized them kind of in rainbow order. I know it's not perfect, but starting red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And I glued them onto this old canvas. There used to be something else painted on this canvas that I didn't really want anymore. And so I used it as a place to glue my recycled stamps. And I think it turned out pretty cool. I really like how it turned out. And I do this all the time. I just love saving, rescuing interesting things that some people might think are trash, but are actually really cool and beautiful. So I'll show you a couple journals that I have, sort of scrapbooks. When I travel new places, instead of buying souvenirs, what I like to do is save things like candy wrappers and tickets and notes from people. And I like to save them in a book. So it might not look like anything too fancy before I put it together, but it makes a really nice collection. This is an old candy wrapper when it's finished. So you might have heard of this saying before, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I think that's really true in art. If you have a creative mind, you start to look at the world in a different way and you see things and you see the potential for what they could be. Somebody else might think it's a shoebox, but you know you could turn it into a Minecraft creeper head or something like that, right? So check out the creativity challenge this week for some ideas for things you could do with recycled materials. I want to show you one more thing before I go, which is something that I don't know if you guys all know about, but a lot of you have made me really nice drawings and pictures and letters. So if you didn't know, I save, oh, that's really heavy, all of them. So lots of them are at school and I can't show you, but inside this book, I have all sorts of drawings and pictures that you guys have made for me. So at the front of this book, I have a big pile of artwork that I need to add. This is artwork kind of from this year, like Clara made me this really nice picture, and Ellie in second grade wrote this wonderful poem that I just love. And Malachi in first grade made this really inspiring picture that I really like. So if you have made me something, you can bet I've got it. It might be at school. Even if it was a couple years ago, I bet I still have it saved in this book. There's all sorts of notes and drawings and wonderful things that just make me smile so much when I look at them. So just in case you didn't know, I save all those things and it helps me, even when we're apart, to remember how great you guys are and how creative and how much I miss you. So check out the creativity challenge this week and let me know what you think of the website. And I hope you have fun doing something creative at home with your family. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.